Gallegos.
And I'm Carolina Gallegos.
And this is the Majestic Tragedy of the Titanic. Welcome to the Titanic, part of the White Star Line. The Titanic is a triumph, the finest ship in the world as of this year of 1912. The first class accommodations were designed to be the pinnacle of comfort and luxury, with an onboard gymnasium, swimming pools, libraries, high-class restaurants, and opulent cabins. I am Captain Edward Smith, and I am very pleased to welcome you aboard.
Hello, Captain. It is so nice to meet you. My name is Margaret Brown of Denver, Colorado. I wasn't planning to sail on the Titanic. I was traveling with my friends, the Astors. However, my grandson is very ill, and I have to get home to him in America.
I am so sorry for your grandson, Mrs. Brown. We guarantee we will provide safe passage across the Atlantic.
Thank you so much, Captain Smith. The Titanic was indeed a beautiful ship. My friends and I were quite comfortable. There were over 2,000 passengers aboard. Some were rich and many were poor immigrants from all over the world. I married J.J. Brown, who was a miner in Leadville, Colorado. I was one of the richer passengers, but I didn't care. Despite being rich, I still felt the connection for the disadvantaged people on board.
The first 4 days of its maiden voyage have passed without incident, but on April 14, 1912, Titanic radio operators received 6 messages from other ships, warning them about drifting ice. Passengers aboard the Titanic had begun to notice this ice during the afternoon. Although my crew were aware that there were ice in the vicinity, they did not reduce the ship's speed, still steaming at 22 knots, 2 knots below from maximum speed of 24 knots. Titanic's high speed in waters were later considered reckless, but it reflected standard maritime practices for the time. The conditions of the northern Atlantic had been the worst it had been in the previous 50 years, which is the reason why the lookouts were unaware that they were about to steam into a line of drifting ice, several miles wide and many miles long.
Captain, we've noticed some ice in the waters. Can you tell us if all is safe?
Oh, of course, Mrs. Brown. There's nothing to worry about. The Titanic is the safest ship in the world. It has advanced safety features such as watertight compartments and remote watertight doors. It is considered to be unsinkable. I've been working at sea for 40 years and have experienced some of the finest ships in the world. However, this is possibly the best ship that I have ever commanded. It has been a long and wonderful career, yes, but I think it's time for me to retire. I want to see the ship triumphantly cross the Atlantic. After that, I'll return to my family and live out my days in my homeland of England.
April 14th was crisp and cold. We were where ice was spotted, but nobody seemed concerned. The captain led the normal religious service for first-class passengers only, unaware how inappropriate that would be. Another message about dangerous ice came in the early afternoon, but the captain didn't even seem concerned. This was the beginning of the tragedy.
Around 11:40 p.m., a crew member spotted an iceberg in the path of the Titanic, but it happened so quickly that they were unable to move the ship in time. The ship hit an iceberg which tore the hull of the ship, allowing seawater to begin rushing in. Soon after the collision, I quickly went to the bridge and began assessing the situation. I soon found out that the ship was damaged badly and because of this, slowly sinking. I ordered my crew to prepare for lifeboats. The first distress call went out after midnight.
Crew members knocked on our doors to let us know that there was an emergency. So we got dressed quickly, wore our coats, and came to the deck. The unsinkable Titanic was built so that 4 compartments would be flooded. without sinking the ship. But the iceberg did more damage than that. 6 compartments were ruptured and it began to flood immediately.
I was informed that the ship would sink in under 2 hours. I was an experienced seaman who had worked at sea for 40 years, including 27 years in command, but I never experienced such a tragic situation like this one. One of the biggest tragedies of the Titanic was that there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone to be boarded on. Women and children would be boarded first, but some men elbowed their ways into the lifeboats. I knew that even if all the lifeboats were fully occupied, nearly 1,000 people would remain on the ship. I felt like it was my duty as an officer and a gentleman to go down with the ship. And as the ship sank, so did I. My body was never recovered.
I was on lifeboat number 6, but there was still room on the lifeboat. But some were still on the ship, and some were jumping into the freezing waters of the Atlantic without any hope or survival. We could also hear the brave ship's band members playing the song, "Nearer, My God, to Thee." Nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee, and though it be a cross that raiseth me, still all my song shall be, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee.
The Titanic tragically sank 2 hours and 40 minutes after initially striking the iceberg. 2 hours later, as the lifeboats drifted into the blackness and ice of the Atlantic, the ship known as Carpathia began rescue operations and pulled 13 lifeboats aboard. Of the over 2,000 people on the Titanic, only 705 survived. Half of the children aboard had perished, as did 75% of third class. Upon being rescued, Molly Brown organized a survivors committee with other first-class survivors. This committee worked on providing basic necessities for second and third-class survivors, and even provided informal counseling. Molly Brown spent the remainder of her life using her notoriety from her survival as the unsinkable Molly Brown, and fought for causes she believed in, including the rights of the common people. She died at age 65.
The Titanic tragedy was met with worldwide shock and outrage for the huge loss of life. Public outcry in Britain and the United States led to major improvements for maritime safety. In 1914, one of their most important legacies was the establishment of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, which still governs maritime safety to this day.
The Titanic was discovered in 1985, more than 70 years after the disaster, during a U.S. military mission, and still remains on the seabed, due to respect of those who perished there. The ship was split into 2 and is gradually disintegrating at a depth of 12,415 feet. Thousands of artifacts have been recovered and been placed all around the world.
The
Titanic was a triumph for its time as one of the largest and most beautiful ships ever built. However, its triumph ended in tragedy as over 1,000 souls perished. This has been a look at the majestic tragedy of the Titanic.